When you're shopping for a pump system, the biggest fear is ending up with something that looks great on the spec sheet but just leaves you standing in a puddle when the water finally decides to move. I get that it's frustrating to spend hard-earned cash on a piece of equipment that either won't start when you need it or, worse, breaks down after a few weeks. You want confidence that the combo you click add to cart on actually fits your basement, well, garden, or workshop setup, and that it won't become a money sink because you have to replace parts you didn't even know existed. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Liberty Pump's PC257 AEYE assembled pump combo is positioned as a radiatorn solution for anyone who needs a primary pump backed by a standby unit. That phrase radiatorn sounds like it should solve the whole hassle factor, but let's break down what that really means in everyday use. This isn't a tiny aquarium pump, we're talking about a 115-volt primary pump paired with a 44210A backup unit, connected with a 11/2-inch CH PVC line and rubber coupler, plus check valves on both sides. In plain English, you get a main pump that does the heavy lifting and a second pump that automatically kicks in if the first quits, all pre-assembled so you don't have to solder fittings or scour hardware stores. Who should consider this combo? If you run a residential well, a small irrigation loop, or a workshop where you often have to drain a flood-prone basement, the built-in redundancy can be a real peace-of-mind factor. Imagine a scenario where you're emptying a flood after a heavy rainstorm, the primary pump starts, works for a while, then overheats. With a traditional single-pump setup you'd have to shut everything down, replace the pump, and hope the water hasn't caused damage in the meantime. With the Liberty combo, the backup pump is already wired in, and as soon as the check valve senses a pressure drop, the standby unit swoops in without you lifting a finger. That kind of set-it-and-forget-it reliability is why homeowners with a history of occasional basement flooding often gravitate toward dual pump systems. On the flip side, if your water movement needs are modest, a single garden pond pump or a small sump that rarely sees more than a few gallons per minute, you're likely overpaying for features you'll never use. The 11/2-inch CH PVC line and rubber coupler are sized for a decent flow rate. Feeding them a tiny trickle just means you're moving extra pipe and a bigger motor than you need, which can translate into higher electricity use without any real benefit. In that scenario, a single pump unit with a manual switchover could save you both money and space. Now, let's talk about the practical strengths. First, the fact that the system arrives fully assembled removes a whole class of headaches for DIY buyers. You open the box, hook the inlet and outlet to your existing plumbing, and the whole thing is ready to run. The included check valves are a subtle but important addition. They prevent backflow when the primary pump shuts down, which ensures the backup pump isn't starved of water the moment it needs to start. In real-world terms, that means you won't get that dreaded pump whine where the motor spins but no water moves, a problem that can damage the motor over time. Another real-world advantage is the 115-volt rating. Most residential garages and basements already have standard outlets, so you don't have to run a dedicated 240-volt line or worry about special circuit breakers. That makes installation faster and keeps the cost down. Users who have already set up a dedicated pump circuit will appreciate that this combo can plug directly into an existing line, avoiding the need for an electrician. There are, however, a few practical weaknesses that show up once the unit is in the field. Because the system is completely assembled, you lose some flexibility in pipe sizing. If your existing plumbing uses a different diameter, say, a 1-inch line, you'll need to add an adapter or possibly replace a section of your pipe. That adds a small but not insignificant amount of extra labor and material cost. Also, the rubber coupler, while convenient, can be a point of failure if exposed to extreme temperatures or aggressive chemicals in the water. In a water supply that runs hot water or contains a lot of dissolved salts, the rubber may degrade faster than a metal flange would, potentially leading to a leak that forces you back to the toolbox. Another trade-off is the space requirement. The primary pump and the backup pump sit side by side, each with its own motor housing, so you need enough floor space to accommodate both. If you're trying to fit the combo into a cramped sump pit or a tight utility closet, you might have to rearrange other equipment. This isn't a deal breaker for most garages, but it's something to measure before you click buy. From an energy use perspective, the dual pump design can be a double-edged sword. The primary pump will run